everyone, and welcome back. I'm going to do another upgrade to my GSG. I'm going to replace the grip safety that I've previously defeated, so it doesn't work anymore. That's not my issue. My issue is I just don't like the shape of it, so I'm going to use this Ed Brown with a memory groove on the back. And this little bump here just kind of gives me a better grip for myself anyway. It's about a $40 part, and it should be a drop-in, but they never are. So for the mainspring housing, I'm going to use a brass punch, and I'm going to knock this little pin right out. Before I do it, you want to take the pressure off the hammer, because the hammer strut is actually under tension from the mainspring. Don't dry fire it without the hammer hitting something. In other words, don't pull the trigger like this. I'm going to let it down easily with my thumb. If you were to pull the trigger and let it hit nothing, it could damage some of your parts in there, so make sure you don't do that. So I'm going to knock this pin out right here. Get my little lightweight hammer. And just gently tap that out. Put this punch aside. And now our mainspring housing should slide right out. And I've had a few other people ask me about how did I defeat the magazine safety. Do exactly what I've done to this point. Remove your mainspring housing, and this one I've already replaced. So once you pull it out, in the real GSG, the one stock from the factory, this is what you'll see. You'll pull this thing out right here. Take this off, the silver piece. You put the gun down. Take this little silver chunk out right there, and that spring. Take these two items, put them in the box, whatever, bag them up, save them if you need them, or throw them away if you don't think you'll ever use them again. And then simply put this back in the gun. Do the reverse steps of what we've done so far. And that will defeat your magazine safety. But me, I don't like the curved one, so I've replaced it with a flat one. So I'm going to be dealing with the flat one here. Alright, next I need to get my grip safety off, and the grip safety is held in place by the safeties. So I need to cock the hammer, flip my safety on safety, and then pull the safety down just a little bit. You don't want it all the way up, you don't want it down, you want it somewhere in the middle or a little below the most upward part of it. And then just kind of pull away from the slide. You can see I kind of wiggle it left and right, or left and right. You can see it starting to pull loose. And then that popped right out. Now when you did that, or when you do that, be careful of this little detent right here, which is connected to a spring. It works it puts safety tension on the safety. That just flew across the room. So actually I see it, so I'm going to grab it real quick. So be aware of that. It looks like this. Consider myself lucky for being able to find that in a room full of junk. Alright, so once you get the left side out, then you can come over here to the other side, and it doesn't matter what direction, you just pull straight out. So once you've got the two safeties out, then your grip safety will come right out. I had another question about how to defeat the grip safety, and basically I put it on a belt sander or a grinder and just ground it down. This is the new one I'm going to put in. You can see the difference in the two. So if you want to defeat your grip safety, just grind off that tab right there. And don't be afraid of damaging anything. You know, these parts are replaceable. This is a $40 part. Granted, it's kind of scary when you're grinding on a gun and you don't know what you're doing exactly, but all else fails, it can be fixed. They're just parts. But anyways, just grind off this right here, and that should take care of your grip safety issue. But for me, I'm going to use this one. So here we are. Put my hammer back up. Get my little Allen wrench for pointing. I'm going to pull up the hammer strut. Get it out, fold it up out of my way. My leaf spring is still in place. There's a little groove in the bottom where it goes. But if you look up here, my leaf spring, that ear on the left, has gotten underneath my sear. Make sure it's not underneath the sear. So I'm going to have to pull my leaf spring out. Make sure here and disconnector are all in good alignment, and then reseat my leaf spring, because you want your leaf spring to sit on top of those parts and not underneath them like it was. So now it's on top. Notice how this tab of the leaf spring is now on top of this here, and this one right here is on top as well. This one right here is going to have to deal with the grip safety, which it's no longer going to be an issue once I push on it. So to keep your leaf spring in place, take your mainspring housing, slide it up. It starts to put tension at the base of your leaf spring, and now my leaf spring will not move. Notice it's still on top of this here and on top of the disconnector right here. This is the disconnector at the very top of the frame. That little thing right there gets pushed, and as it gets pushed, you can see it doing tension on the that leaf spring. Okay, now we're ready to put our grip safety in. Actually, I need to take the hammer strut. I always forget that for some reason. I'm going to move it up just a little bit more, my mainspring housing, to get it close to going into the little plunger there. Now I'm going to take my grip safety again, put it in there. It's hard to get a good angle on the camera so you can see, and so I can actually get the parts in. Alright, so I've got it in there. Now I'm going to push it up. So now my hammer strut is in the top of the plunger of the mainspring housing, and my beaver tail grip safety is in place. So now I'm going to take the pin that holds it in and pop that back in. If for some reason your pin does not go in easily, stop, because you might not have something lined up. And these frames are aluminum, so you can bend them. So just be careful about that. Alright, so let's give the grip safety a try. Notice the grip safety is moving around. That's because the ambidextrous safeties, or single-sided safety depending on your gun, it holds the grip safety in place. But I'm going to go ahead and cock it, and then I'm going to put tension on the hammer and pull the trigger. And it's not going off really. Well, it kind of did. I can feel it rubbing in there a little bit, but I'll go ahead and put it back together, put the safeties on, and you do it opposite direction. When you put ambidextrous safeties on, they mate up inside the gun. You can't see it when you're doing it, but they mate up like this, a little tongue and groove, if you will. Get it close as I can get there. So we'll put our weak side in there first, or the right side, however you want to look at it. That little detent is the one that shot across the room. Don't forget that. Slip that back in there. My sear pins is coming loose. See if I can tap that in. There we go. Okay. And then we'll put our safety back on. And I'm going to use, remember I said you had to line up your safeties to get them at the same angle so those tongue and groove fit. That little detent is poking out right there, so I'm going to use my Allen wrench, push it, and then as I push that in there with the Allen wrench, I'm pushing towards the frame with my thumb, and that should get the safety closer to the frame. Oh my gun has to be cocked. That's correct. See, these are all steps to remember. There we go. See, the safety won't go in unless it's cocked. So now, yep, I'm pulling the trigger and the hammer's not falling. So I need to relieve some metal off that. Alright, I've ground on my new part. I took off that big old ear that was sticking off there, so hopefully this is enough to disengage the grip safety. So I've got my gun put together mostly. Remember to make sure your leaf springs go on top of the internal parts in there and not underneath the sear and the disconnector. Put my new grip safety in. And you want the hammer strut to go in between that two lines, or that little gap right there. Slip that guy in there. Slide it back up. Put my pin back in. Alright. Cock it. Not feeling it. Watch my grip safety move. You see it rotate right there? Can you see that move? It's moving right there at the crack. So something's still not right. So I'm going to take it apart one more time and take another look at it. Okay, so the gun's not firing with the new grip safety. I've defeated the little guy here, and from what I can tell is the hammer strut is rubbing in this channel right here. I don't know if you can see close enough. You see some metal taken off right there. That's from the hammer strut rubbing. This is the factory grip safety, and you can see how deep that channel is. So there's a lot more room for the strut to actually move in. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take this aside, use a square file, and run in here and try to make that channel a little deeper. It's going to be pretty ugly and not very fun to do, but it's the only thing I can do at this point. Okay, so I've taken a file and I've kind of scratched off what I thought, where I think it's rubbing, and then I'm going to take a Sharpie, whatever color you got, and I'm going to color that area that I just ground down. And this, when I put it back together, this will show me if there's any wear where it's rubbing, if it's still rubbing, which I suspect it probably is. So we put it back together and see what happens. Okay, so I've ground on it probably 2 or 3 times now, and I'm still getting a mark right there. So I'm not grinding enough. And I took a look at the hammer spur, and I took it out. It's rubbing like that in that channel. So it's rubbing on there just like so. And I took a look at the hammer strut rather, and I noticed when you look down the end of it, this thing's not square. So this is kind of a crappy design, but in other words, it's not completely flat right there. It's actually angled. So there's like a ridge on one side of that. That's why it's rubbing on one side of the beaver tail in that little channel. So I think I'm going to grind on some of the metal here and see if I can flatten that out a little bit more. That'll be a lot easier than it will be to sit there and try to dig into that with a file. Okay, I finally got it to where it'll fire without the mainspring housing rubbing on the hammer spur. And basically what I did was I removed the hammer attached to the hammer spur and used a Dremel tool. You can kind of see how it's real shiny right there. I marked this with some red ink, or actually I kept rubbing off the grip safety onto here where it was red, so I just kept kind of grinding a little bit at a time, just a little bit, using the Dremel tool, and took down those high edges, and then put the gun together after I marked it again with some more red Sharpie. Put it together, tried to use it, everything seemed to function okay, took it apart, and after I didn't see any more marks in my red, none of the Sharpie was getting wiped away, if you will, so that means the hammer strut is no longer rubbing on there, so that should be good. So at this point I'm going to put it back together. Alright, everything went back together real nice. Notice the grip safety on there. I really dig that that little memory groove there, but it doesn't fit as nicely as I would like right around here. In fact, you can see the metal on the actual frame is sitting a little bit higher than this. If I wanted to repaint the entire gun, or if you were going to have it re-blued or something, you could grind that down. But I can't feel it when I'm holding the gun. I can feel it right now for sure, but I don't think it'll be that much of an issue. I'm going to run with it anyway. But I really like that. It's defeated right now, so you don't have to depress it to shoot it. Let's put some snap caps in there and give it a shot. So, no grip safety. But I like that feel a lot better than the stock one. And remember, y'all, I'm not a real gunsmith. I'm just showing you what I did to my gun. So this is like a couple of buds sitting around, drinking a few beers, and trying to figure out the best way to do something without paying without paying for it. But everything went back together no problem. Remember the trick with the Sharpie, and only remove a little bit of metal at a time. I probably spent 20 or more minutes in between cuts filing, but I just took a little bit at a time, putting the gun back together, trying it, taking it apart, filing, putting it back together. So you know, videos are deceiving in that respect, because I cut a lot of stuff out for shortness of time. But anyways, thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos and shooting stuff. Thanks.